Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of the Low Budget Review Show. I am your host, Eric Smith. Today, I'm talking about Jaws 2. This is from Bantam. It is by Hank Searls, 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 based on the screenplay by Howard Sackler and Dorothy Tristan, inspired by Peter Benchley's Jaws. And it says a completely new novel. This is part of a book bundle that I'm reading where I chose 5 books that are number 2s. And this is the 4th out of those 5 books. And before I get into anything else, 2 things. One, I have not seen the movie Jaws 2 in decades and decades. And the only thing I remember about it was the ending. And 2, from what I read online on Wikipedia, and I know you can't necessarily trust, what you read online, but why would somebody lie about something like this? Why would someone make stuff up on Wikipedia about Jaws 2? But apparently this book is based on a very early draft of the script that wasn't very similar to the final draft, the shooting draft of the script. And which I can buy that because only one of the 2 people named here are listed as for writing credits for the movie. Excuse me. Stumbling over my words. There are 2 writers credited for the screenplay. Howard Sackler, I believe, was one of them, but Dorothy Tristan was not the other one. There was somebody else. So, apparently very, very, very different from the movie. And after I finished the book, I did read the description of the movie on Wikipedia just to remind myself, and quite different. All of that being said, I just finished this last night, or was it this morning? Whenever it was. I have not rated it on Goodreads yet. Mainly because I cannot decide what rating I want to give it. I guess that was for the too long didn't watch folks. There's no rating yet. And basically, I didn't give a nutshell. There's a shark back at Amity. A great white, killing people in Amity. Chief Brody. Shark attack book. That's the nutshell. All right. First of all, this is an incredibly well-written book, and it reads more like a novel than a novelization, if that makes sense to anybody. Hopefully it does. The majority of novelizations that I've read, the good ones, give you the movie with some extra. Maybe it's because they're working on a slightly earlier draft of the script or even the shooting script, but before edits and that kind of thing. And so you're getting a little bit of extra stuff that wasn't in the movie, and a good author will get into the heads of the characters a little more than you're necessarily going to get in a film. But it still feels like a novelization. If you've seen the movie, you're like, yeah, I remember this. You can hear maybe the characters' voices in your head as you're reading it, but it feels like you're reading about a movie that you've seen. Whereas this, I've seen the movie, and even though it's been a long time and I didn't remember everything, this feels like the kind of thing that was a novel that was made into a movie. Hopefully this is all making sense. But the point is, it's very, very well written. We get so into the characters, so into what they're thinking. There are parts where the POV is from the shark. There are parts where the POV is from a seal. And while in the movie, you might have camera POV from the shark, this gets into shark anatomy, how sharks work. why the shark is doing what it's doing. So incredibly well written. But here's the thing. The tagline for this book could very well be Jaws 2, small town politics with occasionally a shark. Spoilers? I don't know if this would be considered a spoiler. This is a 293. Is that a 3 I'm looking at? 293 page book. It is not until page 250 that people are aware there is a shark. Now, that's not 100% a true statement. Earlier in the book, and I'm talking about living people, obviously the people that got eaten by the shark knew, well, most of them knew for a moment that there was a shark. Some of them didn't even know that, but there is a point earlier in the book where somebody finds out that there is a shark and they refuse to tell anybody. So there's one person, one living person that knows there's a shark, and they do essentially nothing about it. And then there's one other slight exception that I can't tell you without really spoiling things. But basically another person who doesn't die, learns there's a shark, but can't tell anyone. The first person chooses not to. Another person can't. So essentially, in this 293 page book, nobody knows there's a shark until page 250. Excuse me. So what we have in this book is there is a casino coming to Amity. It's going to revitalize the community after the troubles, which is what they call the events of the first movie. But with this casino, all sorts of other things, all sorts of problems for Chief Brody. There's also a crime committed, trying to avoid spoilers here. There's a crime committed, Chief Brody makes an arrest, and that causes all sorts of trouble for Amity. And while this is going on, we do get these periodic bits from the shark's POV. We do get these periodic, very periodic shark attacks. But, again, nobody living, with the exceptions I mentioned, but essentially nobody living knows that there's a shark until page 250. The reason I keep hitting this is because in the original Jaws, and not that I should necessarily be comparing them, but this is a sequel, but in the original Jaws, pretty sure they knew immediately from the first victim that there was a shark. They found the dead girl and did an examination and went, oh, these are shark bites. And so, a big part of that book is how the town is dealing with the fact that there is a great white shark in the waters. The whole big thing about Chief Brody wants to close the beaches. The mayor doesn't want to close the beaches because summertime, that's where all their money, the town's money, comes from. There's none of that going on in here because nobody knows there's a shark. It's all this political infighting, the issues with Brody and his wife, which I think only make sense if you've read the original book, because in the book, spoilers if you haven't read it, there's a good chunk of the book, I tend to say a quarter of the book, but that might be an exaggeration, that's all about Brody's wife having an affair. Um, and so I don't think there's any real tension between Brody and his wife in the movie. Uh, but there's so much tension in this, and it absolutely stems from the events of the book Jaws, because it specifically mentions those events, which is again why this feels more like a direct sequel to the book than it does to a sequel to the movie slash a novelization of Jaws 2. Excuse me. So the reason I can't decide on how I want to rate this is because it is so well written, and the things that are going on are pretty interesting. Some people might find them boring. Some people may have no interest in them whatsoever. I think if you're just looking for a novelization of the movie as it was, a straight up shark attack story, you're probably not going to like this. You're not going to like the other stuff that's going on. And regular viewers know killer animals, my favorite subgenre of horror, but I also read a lot of other stuff, relatively speaking. I read legal thrillers, I read mysteries, I read fantasy and sci-fi, and all sorts of different genres. And so, as much as I would have loved just a crazy over-the-top shark attack book, I don't mind all that other stuff because I found it interesting. Excuse me. But this is Jaws 2, a novelization based on a screenplay. It was, well, a different screenplay was made into the movie. The biggest problem is that there's not nearly enough focus on the shark stuff. And again, nobody even knows there's a shark until almost the very end of the book. So it doesn't quite feel right as a Jaws novel slash novelization. And so I just can't decide how to rate it. It's definitely going to be at least a 3 because I liked the book. I just can't decide if it's not a 5. Do I give it a 4? Well written, interesting characters. Oh, there does feel like a lot of fat shaming in this book. A lot of talk about people's weight, and at least the fat people. And there are quite a few unlikable characters, which is fine. But I don't know, for some reason it felt like the author was reveling in what shitty people they were, which feels different in, say, an Edward Lee book because of the nature of what Edward Lee is writing in some of his books, where it does sort of revel in the depravity of the characters. This, I don't know, some of the characters were just so unlikable that it wasn't entertaining, if that makes sense. But then there is a character who is an unlikable, well, I can't say an unlikable character. They're a bad person, but I actually liked their character. This book has me so confused. So even without a rating, I would say if you're a fan of Jaws, the book and or the movie, and if you can get past or understand the things that I've said here, I would say read the book. It's not Jaws, and it's so much more. It's like they took the whole conflict between Brody and the mayor from the first story and made that what the majority of the story was going to be. Not specifically close the beaches, don't close the beaches, but there's so much conflict between Brody and the mayor about certain things, and Brody and other characters about those same things and other certain things. And so much conflict between Brody and his wife, and Brody and his kids, and all of this stuff. So, but if you can deal with that, I don't regret reading this book. I definitely liked it. I can't say yet that I really liked it. I don't know when I'm going to be able to make that decision. It needs to be relatively soon, I think. It's just so different than both the original book Jaws and the movie Jaws and the movie Jaws 2. Yeah. I do think I didn't waste my time. I liked it well enough. I just can't decide where I'm coming down. I'm just repeating myself now. But I think it was worth reading, and I would recommend it to people who saw this review and didn't go insane from my ramblings and thought maybe it sounds interesting. So that's Jaws 2 by Hank Searls, however you say his last name. Yeah, that's what I have to say about that. Question for the video. Basically, it's just all Jaws related. Have you seen the movie Jaws 2? What did you think of that? Have you read the book Jaws 2? Somebody posted on my Facebook. I always post what I'm currently reading. Someone posted that they loved this book. And I can't say I loved it. I definitely liked it. Not sure. Again, I'm just repeating myself now. Not sure where I fall exactly. But loved it, I think, is pushing it a little too far. But if you've read it, let me know what you think. If you've seen the movie, let me know what you think of that. Let me know what you think of the original movie. Some people think it's overrated. I think it's fantastic. The book, I actually think Jaws is better than Jaws the movie, better than Jaws the book, mainly because of that whole big section with Ellen Brody and her affair. Excuse me. Have you seen Jaws 3? Have you seen Jaws the Revenge? This is all Jaws talk all the time. I have seen Jaws 3, saw it in the theater in 3D. I have never seen Jaws the Revenge. I hear it's absolutely terrible. I'm tempted to watch it just because. And it's got Michael Caine. How bad could it be? Well, apparently pretty bad. Michael Caine said he made it just so he had the money to buy a house, I believe is the quote, or close to the quote. So yeah, I've seen 3 out of 4. I've read 2 out of however many now. I believe 3 has been novelized. I don't know about 4. I'll have to look into that. But yeah, let's just talk some Jaws in the comments below. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections, please put those in the comments below. Comments are open for spoilers. Just post spoiler warning. We try to be polite here at the Low Budget Review Show. Please like, share, and subscribe, all the usual YouTube stuff. If you'd care to follow me on other social media, I'll have links for my Instagram and Bluesky in the description below. And that's all I've got. This has been the Low Budget Review Show. I have been Eric Smith, a very confused Eric Smith. Until next time, read more books.